Hello there, and welcome to the tour of the Mentee HV Miner, the fourth vehicle in my Wimpomania line of vehicles. My name is Wimpomania, and I am the chief designer, chief builder, chief architect, and chief dumbass behind the Mentee Update project. That's right, this is an updated vehicle. So before I show you around the updated vehicle, I'm first going to show you the original vehicle. And here it is over here. One thing you will notice immediately is it used to be the seventh vehicle in my Wimpomania line. And you will probably also notice that I haven't changed a lot. So generally speaking, it's the same, except I have lengthened the nacelles on the side down by a block, as you can see there, in order to make it more ground vehicle-ish, or at least that was the idea. The internals have changed around a little bit because this vehicle was built pre-1.0, so before the game was fully released. And as a result, it didn't have any containers or extensions. There was no such thing as weights and volumes. And no such thing as CPU. Other stuff, there was no such thing as, like, for example, the shields and stuff don't really apply because it doesn't have one. But there you go. So this original vehicle, that was its harvester box. And if I remember right, you only got one to choose from, and it was this 1x1x2 sized box there that the drills went into, or fed into. Some of the detailing is slightly different, so the shapages around here and on the sides and there and across there are slightly different. But generally speaking, it's just an updated version. The drills are in the same place, for example. The one thing is, I was going to make a completely new vehicle. And I tested around with some designs where I had 3 drills down the side on one side and 3 drills down the side on the other. It didn't look right. I did one there was 3 along the bottom and 3 along the top, and I didn't like that too much either. I was going to do, let's see if I can find it quickly. It's one of these. That one. I was going to try to do a slightly different version of that with more of a Wimpomania line cockpit and with these side pods, but I wanted it to be 6 drills rather than just 4. And not only would the pods have looked, if I didn't have any thrusters, if I just had 3 drills there and 3 drills there, I mean, for a start, they're also slightly further apart-ish, but also I would have struggled to find a place for reverse thrust, and the rear nacelles, these arrangements, would have had to have come out quite a long way, so I didn't go with that either. I was just going to sort of try my best, and then I went up to my construction area up there and I got the old one out, and I just like it too much, so I just updated it. So there you go. Righto, so that's the end of that segment. So the next segment is going to be its propulsion, handling and lift capacity. Okay, so it's propulsion, starting with its forward propulsion. We have 4 medium tier 1s and a small pushing it forward. For reverse, we have 3 medium tier 1s and 2 smalls. And laterally, we have 2 medium tier 1s and 3 smalls. It also has 3 RCSSs. On the bottom, it has 9 small hover engines on by default, plus a further 5 set to max lift. And it has 3 medium tier 1s set to drilling mode, to help pitch it forward to get it into the ground to get to the resource deposit that you are drilling. Oh, and 3 hover boosters to help you get out of any hole you might be stuck in. That's the idea, hopefully. I mean, I can't imagine it would ever be a problem with a miner, because you would just dig out, I suppose. Right then, so mobility, starting with its maneuverability, and this is with mining mode off, although only, well, there are some bits that will change: lift, pitch and roll, and I'll talk about those later on. But for its forward acceleration, 27 meters per second squared. I've given it roughly the same in reverse, so that if you can't turn around in a hole that you've dug, you can at least back out. You should be able to. It's not a lot different from its forward. Laterally is only 20 meters per second squared acceleration. Its agility, again, as usual with my HVs, I only think yaw is particularly important, 47 degrees per second, although with a mining vehicle, I do find pitch to be kind of important as well. 25 degrees per second, roll is 30 in case you care. Now I am going to turn on mining mode, so you will see what that loud signal does immediately. I thought the other day I had found in the options some audio things. Right. Did that save? See, that's still loud, but never mind. So, with mining mode on, the pitch changes to 47, and now because I was fanning around in the menus, I can't remember what it was. 25 to 47, whoops. So, not bad at all. Okay, as for its lift capacity, so it can operate in up to 8.7 G. As usual, that is dry weight, so not carrying anything. As usual, I don't know exactly if that factors in fuel and air. It probably does, but I don't know. Actually, probably not. I wouldn't, yeah, because it's still 21 tons whether it's full of fuel or not. So 8.7 G dry weight with max lift off, that is. Shush. And in 4G, it will lift 71.4 tons. As I said, it weighs 21.1 tons, which means it will lift a further 50-ish tons. Shush. Should we give it... I give it a test drive? So this is without pilot mode on. I mean, don't expect anything brilliant. That's with it on. Yeah. But she's supposed to be quite an early game miner, so, you know, you'll have to forgive her. Okay, so that's the end of that segment. So the next segment is going to be its power, fuel and air. As usual, I'm going to tell you about this stuff now and show you where they are in the interior layout bit. So power, she has 2 large generators. Fuel, she has 7 large fuel tanks. And air, she has 5 O2 tanks, 1 ventilator, and she isn't compartmentalized. Only 1 compartment, and that's the cabin. Cab? Yeah, whatever. Okay, that's the end of that segment. So the next segment is going to be her weapons, defenses, and construction. Okay, so it is armed. It comes with a Gatling turret on the back, which is set to what I consider to be my general purpose configuration. So that will target predators, prey, soldiers, ground troops, drones, and the weapons of small grids. Only the one. Defenses? Well, she has no shield and she has very, very little armour. The armour she does have is blocks of steel. So Here is a couple of blocks of steel on either side of the generators. I suppose you would count that one actually, because that one there is actually the outer hull, but whatever. And she does have a little bit more around the thrusters, if I can find an example. And there's a few blocks up here as well, but those are just steel too. Construction. As usual now, I have my unpainted version that shows you how it's made. So the lighter stuff with the hexagonal pattern on it is obviously carbon composite, and the darker grey stuff is steel, with exception to the turret. Actually, let's go. There we go. Just to demonstrate that that's not steel. So one thing to note is the underside is carbon composite, except obviously where it's hover engines. That bit there isn't. No, I was going to say that's not a mechanical drill. So I wanted to give a block of steel behind that light, because that light isn't as hit pointy as a block. Yeah, block is 50 and that's only 25. So just to protect you when you're hovering from anything in front of you shooting at you. So there you go, that's what she's made of and what she looks like. As a HV, she has no structural frame, in case you were wondering. Okay, that's the end of that segment then. So the next segment is going to be her resource gathering, production and storage. Right then, resource gathering. So as I alluded to earlier, she has 6 mechanical drills of the T1 flavour. There, and there, and there, and there, and there. No, production, she has none. There is no constructor on board because I've tried to keep it as small as I could-ish. I mean, maybe I could have made it smaller with a smaller container and no turret and all of that jazz, less fuel and stuff. And storage. She has a ammo container controller on its own. In fact, you can just see it there through the window. So just 125 of ammo. And the ore and wood container is there at the back of the cab, and that is 5,000 SU. Right, so the next segment then is going to be its interior layout and any remaining devices. Starting with the any remaining devices, there's the detector there. For some reason I always forget to tell you about these, but she has 3 spotlights as headlights. Something that I used to forget but I've started to remember is docking pads. She has 3 of them. Of course she has my patented red flares on the back as tail lights. She also has some floodlights. One there, and then matching on the other side. They are just simply bright and long-reaching for lighting up any hole. So she also has a couple of hazard beacons, so when you're mining you get some orange flashy. Now if you don't like the flashy, I will tell you at the end how to turn those off. Anything else I need to talk about on the outside? Not really. So you've heard and seen them moving around as I've been moving around. The door, those ramps and the light that's there and there are on a motion sensor. Of course the other side is matching. Light, sensor. Actually, let's go in this one. So this is your locked when it comes to the interior. As you can see, the ammo controller, as I talked about earlier, is there. Just 125, no extensions. There's the tier 2 CPU extender. The sensor for the lights in here is there. There is, of course, some heads-up displays as usual with my builds, although depending on the complexity I might do less or more of them. But in fact, the last one had some that wasn't quite as detailed. And then, so for example, the speeder bike and the next one down, the learner speeder bike, doesn't have any at all. I was originally not going to do a lift capacity, but I thought it would be useful, so I did, obviously. Ventilator in the back. The two interior lights are attached to the container extensions. And that's it in here. So now I'm going to phase through into the back so you can see what's inside. So I'm inside all of the container extensions now, and as I said, it's 5000 SU. One RCS is there, another one matching on the other side, and there's the third. The core is at the top behind that thruster and one below. Behind that is the wireless connector, which itself is in front of the turret. Then of course we have O2 tanks there. Oh, and behind, there's some more armor in front of the generators, and in fact there's the generators. I can't find them again now. There they are there. And then the rest is basically fuel, apart from the bits of the thrusters that are on the inside. Rightio, that's it, because she's quite small. So the next segment is going to be her shortcuts and signals. I keep forgetting to say this, but sometimes I remember. Please don't auto-group, because some of these device group shortcuts rely on the custom device groups I have set up. There is a reminder there, but some people might not see that in time. Jeff Randall. Love you, buddy. So, propulsion, etc. That turns on what I referred to earlier as the default hover engines. It also turns on all of the thrusters, apart from these three downward pointing ones, and the three RCSs. The next one down is max lift. That turns on, oh, do you know what? I just reminded myself. That turns on the 5 extra hover engines. It is sort of related, so I'm going to say it now. All of the figures that I mentioned about its lift capacity and the ones on the screen there do not take those 3 thrusters into account. So if you're struggling to carry something, you can always flick on the mining. Oh, I should have maybe kept it to then. So flick on the mining mode, they'll come on and help you carry anything that's heavy. Oh, one thing I wanted to say, and I'm not entirely sure when, so this will do. I put in as much Sathium as would fill up 5000 SU, and it came to 30.4, I think it was, kilos. No, 30.4 tons. So as you can see, in 4G with max lift on, you can carry around a full load of Sathium and still be 20 tons in the clear. Tons? And fucking up the button presses. Right. That was max lift. Next one down is tail lights, as usual. If you don't like them, you can turn them off. If you hate them, you can multi-tool them off. The next one down is air vent. I always give you an air vent switcher offer. In case you haven't seen one of my tours, I will go through it. But in case you have, I'm going to go through it quickly just so you don't get bored. Keep an eye on the power left. You turn oxygen off. That doesn't change because the ventilator block itself is still powered. So I give you a switch to turn it off. And as you can see, it can save you some power in a breathable atmosphere. On to the signals then. Power save. Doesn't do a lot in this vehicle. It turns off the, the Wi-Fi just there. And it turns off the LCD projectors in here. It also turns off all of the motion sensors. One thing I keep forgetting to tell you is why you have a power save option. It's so that if you're carrying this around on a CV that isn't in an enclosed hangar, for example, it's just on top, like a flatbed or whatever, I give you a power save option so that you can save as much power as possible whilst leaving the ship on, or vehicle, with the air vent running, so that if you are in a hostile environment because it's too hot or too radiated, the inside of this doesn't match that and take too long to become hospitable. Yeah, that'll do. Next one down is mining mode. As you heard and saw earlier, loud and drills and with the hazard beacons, and as I said, those thrusters. Oh, I should give you a demonstration. Actually, I was already on the right page. What am I doing? Let's turn mining mode off and show you what the difference is. So I'm going to pitch forward using my numpad. So I can get to about there. What the hell? It didn't do that in testing. Is it the drills? Loud. Edited out the loud. Right, I'm going to deactivate that group. Yeah, see, it's for some reason not as manoeuvrable when the drills are out. I'm not entirely sure why, but if I go back to that group and turn them back on again, straighten up and demonstrate again, it's much more responsive. In fact, I can keep going and flip it over. I did that in testing again just to see what it was like. Loud. Edited out the loud. Everything off that should be. I might as well leave the other thrusters on. Next one down, as you saw, is turret. Turns on the turret, obviously, and off again. And then finally, floodlights. As I said earlier, that one there, and then the matching ones on the other side. And in case you're curious, can I get it? Yes, I can. So it's not particularly intense, but it does have a high range. Again, that's for lighting up any holes that you are in. There we go, that's the end of that segment. So the next segment is going to be its CPU and upgrading. So its CPU, just in case you're skipping around in the video, the core block is there, which is underneath this bit. The CPU extender is there, and as you can see, it is tier 2 CPU. Its CPU usage is 8,100 and nearly 50 out of the 12,000 you are allowed. Upgrading wise, however, there is no inbuilt upgrade slots. There's no empty space earmarked for anything like a shield or anything like that. I mean, if you really want to go digging around in here, you probably could come in under there, under where the core is, take out a layer of extensions, and you probably could fit a shield in. You would probably need more generators and tier 3 CPU as well, I think, if I remember right. And I think that would take it down to around about 2,700-ish, I think it is. Something 3,000-ish. Yeah, about 3,000-ish, I think. Well, actually, maybe a bit more, but whatever. Yeah, unfortunately, there is no slots earmarked for anything. Rightio, that's the end of that segment. So the next and last segment is going to be any other info. Right then, I've got the original back out. I wanted to talk about its blue. Now, if you've seen one of the previous Wimpomania line, or in fact any after this, depending on when you're watching and stuff. So they introduced, or no, I think they changed the colour now, thinking about it. They changed the colour of what was the portable constructor, the ground placeable constructor. And it was a blue that was closer to that blue there. Now, when I started to do the Survival and Defence series, which was supposed to be like inspired by and an upgrade from the portable constructor, I used that blue because it was closer to the blue of that constructor. And because the Wimpomania line of vehicles were already painted that blue, I stupidly decided, well, you can't have multiple series or lines of vehicles or builds using the same blue. I mean, are you mad? So I changed the Wimpomania line to that blue. And I regret it, because something about that blue does not look good on on any of the Wimpomania lines. So that's why I've then gone back to... actually, it's not quite the same blue. If you have a look at that, it is 45, 50, 65, and the original colour is not. 45, 55 and 65 is not that. As you can see, there is also an orange. Now, I got that digger out earlier on that you saw was orange, and I gave you an orange in this palette just in case you wanted to paint this like my other HV miners. And I have to say, it doesn't look too bad in that orange. I mean, orange is one of my favourite colours, but then so is blue, you know, whatever. So there you go, that's the colours and the palette and that sorted. Oh, damage texture. I always forget to mention it, but I do want to talk about it. So this texture you can see on the inside is that colour there and that texture there. Whoops, I didn't mean to close it. Those two. And I do that because as you lose blocks, it looks like smouldering metal, in my opinion. Or it certainly looks more like damage than just leaving it as the default block texture. That's why I do that. The next thing I want to talk about is the naming convention of the Wimpomania line. So if you saw the tour of the learner bike, you can skip this because I mentioned it in that as well. So the starter class shuttle pod was the first vehicle I ever built that then became the Wimpomania line. I built it in StarMade and then in Space Engineers. In StarMade, it was supposed to be the starter ship of the server I was planning to host. It never came to fruition, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it was supposed to be the starter ship, and I called it the starter class as sort of a nod and a wink to that. And then as I built it in Space Engineers, the name stuck. It grew on me, the name, calling it starter class. So then when I started to build more vehicles in that similar design philosophy, I decided that the names of those vehicles should be either words that mean someone is new at something, or words that mean someone is the first at something, or the synonyms of those words. So that's why we end up with things like beginner and newbie and rookie and cadet and mentee in front of us here, and recruit, for example, and all of those. Just in case you were curious. The last thing I want to talk about, and it's something I've never mentioned, but you probably have guessed anyway, certainly if you've seen multiple builds of mine, I don't like using the cockpit blocks. Yeah. So I will of course use the 2 seats, but I won't use the ready-made cockpits. There are a couple of reasons. The first is I don't like the getting in and out, despite the fact that it's the same as getting in and out of a sink. It's just a sink. Getting in and out of a seat, it's just bink and you're there in it, and then getting out is bink and you're out. It's the same with the blocks, but for some reason, because it looks like it has a canopy, I don't like that it's just bink and you're in, bink and you're out. It's like you're teleporting out. On top of that, I like having vehicles, and although obviously this doesn't apply to every vehicle, because I have some like the bikes where there is no space to walk around in, but generally speaking, I like my vehicles to be walk around-inable. walk in aroundable. Walk about in aroundable. And I like the challenge of trying to, so like this for example, trying to get a cockpit that you can walk around in and still be small enough to be a miner that can fit in its own hole. Giggity! So, one last thing to do that I have forgotten a few times, but never mind, in case you're watching these in the order they come out, and that is to update to the workshop. Airtight and private, so I can do the description. And there we go. Blinkies. In case you care, I've already recorded the outro. I forgot the blinkies. So, loud. Edited out the loud. Mining mode has blinkies. If you don't like the blinkies, so it is a bit of a hassle, but it doesn't take long. So I'm going to use the up-down arrow keys to cycle between the hazard beacons while using the mouse to interact with this. And I'm going to set the signal to nothing on each of them. There we go, done. So, oh, and in case you do it while mining mode is activated, you can deactivate the whole block group. And now they won't ever come on again. So there you go. Right, luckily that was remembered. So there we go, that'll be the end of the tour. Thank you very much for taking an interest in the Mentee HV Miner, the fourth vehicle in the Wimpomania line. I hope you get some use out of it, and hopefully I will see you in another video for a different build. So thank you again, and goodbye.